Hi, everyone. So I know I haven't been on YouTube for a while, and it's not because I don't want to, because I do like being on YouTube. It's mainly because of all the background work I've been doing, and that takes most of my time. But yeah, it's December 2025, and I just want to say hi. I just want to say hi, and I want to wish you all happy holidays. And I want to thank all of you that are subscribed and that watch my videos. Thank you so much. I think since last year, last December, my channel has grown a bit. Like I had less than 20 subscribers, I believe, last December. And, this December, 1 year later, I have 102, I think it's 102 subscribers. So thank you. I hope all of you are real people that are watching my videos. Um, and yeah, I'm really just gonna talk out of the top of my head in this video because I feel like I have a lot to say. I always feel like I have a lot to say during certain times of the year, especially the change, the season changes, the solstices and the equinox. Um, and I don't know why. I just feel like they're like in my imagination. I feel like those are transition points during the year where energy moves a little bit more. That's how I feel, and I also feel it in my body every time, like the summer solstice comes, or my favorite, the winter solstice, because I was born around the winter solstice. Um, and yeah, I just feel like I have a lot to say. So I don't know how organized this video is going to be, how coherent. I just want to talk about Christmas and some thoughts and that I have that I've been having in the past few years about Christmas. And if you can hear the background motorcycles, like I don't know what to do. They're just gonna stay in the video because it's so loud all the time around here. So if you've seen my previous videos, you probably can guess that I'm in the Caribbean. And every time I'm in the Caribbean and I make videos, there's always so much background noise. So I just learned to accept that. That's just part of the charm. So yeah, so I just want to talk about Christmas. I have a lot of thoughts about Christmas, and it's always been a highlight of the year for me because I was born around Christmas. I was born around a very traditional Christmas, and I was actually born in New York. I grew up in the Caribbean, but I was born in New York from Caribbean parents, and I always had, for the first few years of my life, I had a very typical um, American or Western um, idyllic type of Christmas, meaning a winter type of Christmas with snow most of the time, with Santa Claus, and with all the coziness and stuff that's around that Christmas aesthetics. And yeah, and like any other normal kid that grew up in a family that celebrates Christmas, I celebrated it every year, and it was the normal thing to do. Obviously, as a kid, I didn't really think much about Christmas. I didn't really put too much thought into it, right? It was a great time of the year with food, with family members visiting, with gifts and parties and um, winter vacations from school. But later on, I started thinking a little bit more about it and learning a little bit more about Christmas. One of my majors in college was religious studies. I've always been fascinated with religion and with theology uh, because I feel like it's one of the best ways to understand human behavior. Psychology is great for that too, but I think that you can study sociology and you can study theology and understand even more about society as a collective, right? I think psychology is more useful for understanding the psyche of an individual. But yeah, again, religion has always been a very clear tool, a very useful tool for me to understand why people say things, certain things, or why people behave and expect certain behaviors from others. And so, yeah, so when you study theology, especially systematic theology or comparative theology, using things like comparative literature or hermeneutics, you really learn about religion in a very objective way, which is just so incredibly fascinating, because while you do that, you kind of deconstruct your own beliefs. You have to force yourself to face your own beliefs and the programming that has been put into your mind, right? Because every single person on earth has a programming that they absorb from the environment they grew up in. In my case, I grew up in a very Christian family, which had its ups and downs and was never boring. I need some water. So yeah, so I used to be a person that did not question her beliefs. I just thought it was normal. Like, to me, Christmas was Jesus' birthday, and it was great. I think Jesus is great, and why not have an important day to celebrate the birth of Jesus, who is the pillar of my cultural programming, which was Christianity. But then all of that changed when I went to college, like I said, and I did all those studies. And the reality is that there is a lot of layers to Christmas that we don't talk about enough, and that are important to understand, not to necessarily change your traditions, but to understand other people's traditions, and to be more tolerant of other people's ways of points of view. When you understand that your point of view is a mixture, and it's not like some pure dogma that was created better than everybody else's dogma, then you become more relaxed, like you become more tolerant, and you understand, okay, I'm not perfect, therefore I can't really judge other people. So yeah, so going back to my point, Christmas, the meaning of Christmas changed the moment I started studying religion, academically. And I think it's important for people to know that before Christianity, there was a set of pagan beliefs and pagan traditions that were also celebrated on December 25th. Again, not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying that before Christmas, it was something else. It was either the birth of Mithras, or it was Saturnalia, or something else. Yule. Again, just the different types of celebrations related to the winter solstice, which is normally, if I'm not wrong, between the 23rd and or the 22nd and the 24th of December every year. So it changes every year, but it's normally around those days. So before Christmas, those days were still celebrated. Those winter solstice days were still celebrated very similarly to how we celebrate Christmas nowadays. And the reason for that is the adaptation of the Roman traditions and the Roman holidays to Christian holidays, to ease the transition of this new official religion of the Roman Empire, which was Christianity. Christianity became the official religion of the Roman Empire around the years 300 AD. But before that, it was an illegal religion, and it was frowned upon, and Christians were persecuted, and just a whole lot of things happened, right? I think there's children running outside, but it's very important, I think, for people to realize that the Romans already had a set of holidays, right, that they celebrated, and that were very well established and very popular. And they took some of those holidays and made them Christian. So they made them Christian the moment that Christianity became the official religion of the empire. And one of the reasons they did that was to ease the transition in the empire. So to ease the transition from paganism to Christianity, which worked, because then a few centuries later, or maybe even less, people completely forgot the origin of those Roman holidays. So again, I think it's important to realize that, and to understand that nothing comes from a vacuum. Everything is just like a result of syncretism. And if we understand that, then we can be more mindful about where certain traditions come from, and more tolerant of other people's traditions. That brings me to the second point that I wanted to discuss, which is how we celebrate Christmas today, which is actually the reason why I wanted to make this video, my reflection on Christmas. And it's because for the past few years, I think I have become really like more like the Grinch, because I get very stressed during the holidays. Like December comes and it's not like when I was a kid anymore. It's more like, oh my God, there's so much to do, there's so much to buy. Do I have my outfits for all the parties that are going to come? Do I have all the gifts and all the cards? Do I have enough money? Am I going to travel? Am I going to, go visit my mom like I am doing right now? Am I going to visit my friends? Like, there's just so much to do in December. And I think that just defeats the whole point. And let me explain. The original traditions of Yule, or of like those pagan traditions that I was talking about, those that were really earth-based, and not all of them, but most of those traditions, pre-Christian traditions, were earth-based and based on the agricultural cycle and just the cycle of the year. A lot of those traditions were similar to what we do nowadays, which are gift giving, community building type of things, like feasting and gift giving, and bringing light from outside, bringing light and nature from outside indoors. So making sure you have that evergreen indoors, making sure the Yule log is burning, making sure you have, again, light, a representation of light inside the house. So apart from all of those things, it was also important to slow down your life. Just like nature slowed down, it was also important to slow down yourself, right? The days are not as long anymore. Nighttime is just longer, and that just meant less activities. That just meant being less outside, and that meant being more indoors, but also more introspection, more time and opportunity for introspection. And I think that we just don't do that introspection anymore, right? Because nowadays we have electricity, we can work until, any time of the day, regardless of the light, if there's daylight or not outside, we can do whatever we want. However, the body is still part of nature. Like, our bodies are still part of nature, and we have forgotten that. We're not independent from Mother Nature. We're not independent from the moon cycle, or the cycles of the seasons, right? And agricultural cycles. We're not independent from that, or we should not behave that like we're independent from that. So I think that it's important for people to still go with the flow of winter and slow down, just like nature is slowing down during the winter months, which is something that we definitely don't do. If anything, I think we do more in December, or in, at least in American culture, we do so much starting in Halloween. Like for Samhain, there's just so much that happens, and then November with Thanksgiving, which is a whole different conversation, right? Thanksgiving and the origin of that, and then December and all of the events and things that come with December. So yeah, so that's really the main point that I want to make here. I don't know if I am being clear enough, but I think it's just so important for people to slow down in December. We should schedule that in December. It's just time to be at home, time to really take your time to cook at home, to cook seasonally, to write in your journal about the whole year that passed and reflect on that, to rest, to rejuvenate, to recover, because January comes really fast and then everybody has to go back to work. And yeah, so we should do more of that. And I think that that's really what I feel like I'm missing. I feel like that's something that can only happen if everybody else does that, right? Because if your family and your friends are inviting you to all of these parties and events, then you probably are going to go. I'm probably going to go because I still want to strengthen my community, right? I still want to be part of my community, participate, and show them my appreciation by being there, by eating with them, etc. But it's just so much, right? It's so saturated because everybody wants to either host or well, not everybody, but a lot of people want to host, and then you end up going to the different events of all your friends that like to host events. So yeah, so I think that my point here is that just like we schedule all of these events, we should also schedule downtime. We should also schedule the type of activities that still bring the family together, but that are just slower, just more, less expectations, less what am I going to wear, what am I going to buy, and more like what do we already have that we can be grateful for, or how can I give the gift of my presence and my time, which is something that in the Western world is just so scarce, right? Because time is money. So that said, I think that's really all I wanted to say. If you agree or disagree, then also feed the comments because I will definitely read them and I will definitely reply. And tell me what you think about the Christmas season. Do you think that we celebrate do you think that it's okay the way we're celebrating nowadays, and it's not that big of a deal? Or do you think that we should have a shift of ideas when it comes to Christmas and a little shift of activities, and what we normalize during the Christmas season? So yeah, so thank you so much for watching this video, and see you next time.